go ahead.
Okay. Kristen, back with the Wellston Herald, and we are back after a 3-meeting missing. But yeah, this is going to be a triple decker. We're going to cover January's real fast. We wanted to cover one thing that was really neat. I'm here with John Cobb, town administrator, but wanted to say the planning committee brought this up, and it was very meaningful, and it was good, and I think he needs to discuss this. A proclamation was ordered.
Yeah, so this year, being the 25th anniversary of the Alfred P. Murrah federal building bombing, has been declared a year to remember, or a year to look back and look forward. Mm-hmm. And so we had a resident, Jamie Ginsner, was from Wellston, and she unfortunately passed in the Murrah building bombing. So Mayor Paul Whitna signed a proclamation in memory of her, and we presented it to her sister and her family. And then on April 19th, we will be planting a tree in memory of Jamie at the Spring Park here on Cedar.
That's neat.
Yes.
But yeah, that was something very special, and we want to send our continued prayers with the families that lost people, especially Miss Purdue. We love you. But
it's hard to believe it's been 25 years.
It's crazy. February, we're going to go to the February meeting already. There's a proposed ordinance amendment. Let me double check here. Having to do with administration and management. Basically, what are we doing there?
Well, so every month at 5 o'clock we have a planning meeting for the town board. So it's the town board of trustees planning meeting. We are reviewing a new set of ordinances, a proposed new set of ordinances to replace the current Wellston Municipal Code. Our current code has really remained unchanged since about 1983 when it was initiated or it was first passed. There's been certain code updates through the periods of time, but the base set of codes has not been updated. So since 1983, we've had multiple new building restrictions input. We have medical marijuana now. We have a lot of different things that have changed. So the town board has decided to look at repealing and replacing our current set of codes with a new updated version. But to do that, they need to meet monthly and review certain sections of that proposed code. Once they have reviewed the entire 800 pages of proposed code in all the different sections, then they will, through ordinance, pass a repeal and replace the entire set of code. So that will do away with the old code and institute the new code. And then we will publish that in the law library at the Supreme Court, state of Oklahoma, at the county law library, and so on and so forth. And then we'll have copies here for review.
Accessibility.
Yeah.
Okay, the second order that I thought was interesting is the library is looking into possible municipal oversight. And what does that mean?
Yes, so the library board came to us a few months back and expressed some interest in exploring municipal oversight, basically taking it from a private library foundation to a municipal public library. There's some benefits for a library under municipal authority. There's grant funding available, so on and so forth, but it also gives perpetual management of it. Currently we have a board down there that is very dedicated, but they've been doing it for a long time, and sometimes it's hard to find people to come in and take the place of those volunteers. So we are currently exploring and doing research on what kind of liability it will be for the town. It is a financial liability, right, but there are funds available for basically what they do is the state has a library fund, and they put that out to, they basically split it up evenly within every municipal library in each county. Mm-hmm. So we're just doing some research. In order to have a municipal library, you have to have a librarian 15 hours a week. Mm-hmm. So we would have to bring on another staff member, which is all things we have to take into account with the finances and stuff. Right. But we are poised to report back to the board, prepare a report and report to the board in the April meeting.
Okay. Next, we have the Board of Trustees meeting for February. Mm-hmm. There was talk of economic development incentives. Now, what does that involve?
Absolutely. So we passed a resolution promoting economic development and sales tax incentives for the area. In order for Wellston to grow and to succeed in areas, we're going to have to bring in new businesses. We have a lot of opportunity with projected growth coming in the area. The more people that are out in this area, they're going to want more services. So in order for us to attract new businesses, which will in turn increase our sales tax revenue, we need to make incentives or try to make us a little more attractive than some of our neighboring communities. And one way to do that is negotiate with our sales tax. So, if there's a grocery store chain or something that's on the fence of say, well, we're going to go to Wellston, or we're going to go to Luther, or we're going to go to another town, we will say, well, tell you what, if you come to Wellston, we'll negotiate with you up to 3.5% of your sales tax. So you get a rebate every month of a percentage of your sales tax that you pay. For a business like a grocery store, that can be a substantial savings, and that's just extra profit into their margin. One thing in that resolution, it talked about supporting TIF districts, which a TIF district is a tax increment finance district. So that goes a little bit farther. That's a vote of the people, and it's of the school district. But basically what that does is that if a manufacturing facility or a business comes in and invests a large amount of money, a $2 million facility, it'll give them a break on their ad valorem or their property tax over a period to help finance those projects. So it was just basically a public record for the board saying we support economic development incentives. We'll do whatever it takes to bring people in. We'll negotiate in any way we can to get new business in the area.
Exactly. Sales taxes support your schools, your streets. Goes into just supporting your community as a whole.
Police, fire,
emergency services,
parks.
Yeah. Wellston needs growth, and this can make it grow.
Yeah.
Okay. The next thing is kind of cool. We have events planned for May, God willing. The alumni parade and whatever the street dance. Yeah. And Butcher's Barbecue wants to hold a street party downtown.
Absolutely.
For their birthday
Pretty
bash.
Excited about that.
So what do we have going with the alumni parade this year? Do you know the theme yet, or?
I don't know the theme on that. The town board approves events, so we have basically, if we have to shut the roads down, so the alumni association asked that we approve closing Birch between 2nd and 3rd, so that they can have their alumni party that evening.
Okay.
And then the Butcher Barbecue Bash is a little bit more encompassing of an event. They're going to look at closing 66B between basically Birch and Cedar, and having a multifaceted event with vendors and street arts and bouncy house and a beer garden.
Yeah, it sounds pretty exciting.
All kinds of stuff. I know his Levi's beer permit has been approved, and so hopefully everything moves forward with that.
Okay, we also had some abatements that came about. One on 103 6th Street and one on 506 2nd Street. So that's just cleaning up of properties, tearing things down.
Yeah. Within enforcing municipal code, it's not always a fun thing, but sometimes, we have to, properties that have fallen into disrepair or allowed the accumulation of trash and clutter, we have to go and talk to them and try to work with them to get it cleaned up. And we try to work for a long period of time, give them plenty of chances. These two properties, unfortunately, we weren't making the steps that we needed to, so we got a court order of abatement, and then the town board approved the funding to clean the properties up if necessary. I can report though that both properties have, the property owners themselves are taking steps necessary. How that works, if we have to clean it up, the money that we spend on cleaning, we bill them. If they don't pay the bill for it, then we put a lien on the property.
Right.
So it's just one of those mechanisms that we have to go through to try to get things cleaned up. That's one thing we're working with. Okay.
And we started doing a mutual aid agreement with Luther Police Department. That's a good thing. I mean,
Absolutely.
you've seen it at work kind of recently with some busts that were done at the On-Q.
Yeah.
And I think we went to help them at Luther with something as well.
Yeah. We work together, we win together. Our neighbors, we're stronger together. Some of the challenges that law enforcement face. We have metropolitan crime in this area, unfortunately, and on a small rural police department budget and staffing. So if we can work together, we have their back, they have ours. We can kind of face some of these challenges that we are seeing. within property crime, within drugs, so on and so forth.
Okay. A speed zone change.
Yes, on Hickory, the previous speed zone went from 35 to 25, just past the baseball field. And so what we've done is the town board approved moving that speed zone to the south before the baseball field starts. Kind of makes a little more sense to slow them down a little bit before
Kids
they're
walking across the road,
right,
road,
where there's a lot of traffic and everything.
Okay. And finally, it looks at, I forgot, no parking. Where now?
7th Street between Birch and Ash, right there by the school. There's a vacant lot that a lot of kids are parking in. People are parking on the sidewalk, parking, pulling up on the sidewalk, crossing the sidewalk. That's a very expensive sidewalk, and we want to discourage any parking in that area in the grass on the side of the street. So the town board approved no parking zone in that area, and we will be putting those signs up probably in the next month or so.
Okay. Finally got our radio grant.
So the police department applied for an Oklahoma Department of Homeland Security radio grant. So we will be getting new 800 megahertz radios in all the police units. That's really important. Right now they only have the 800 megahertz walkie-talkies, but that's how they communicate with the communication center. So having them mobile in the vehicles is safer, and they work better. So we were awarded $7,600 to buy, I think we get 5 radios.
Moving on to Melissa McCauley is now the assistant administrator.
I'm very excited to announce that. Melissa has been with us, it'll be a year in July, and she has worked as a part-time court clerk. She comes with years of administrative experience. She worked for the State Department of Insurance in Insure, Oklahoma, and she is just a great asset to the town. We've identified, her traits that she brings to the table, and she assists me in a lot of aspects in the administration within human resources. So the town has approved bringing her in and giving her a full-time status as the assistant administrator / court clerk. What that does also is it builds continuity within our operations. One thing that we hold dear here in the organization is accountability. So every one of our positions, we're held accountable, that means we're expendable. But if you're expendable, you have to have somebody to fill that space. But you have to have continuity of government. It has to keep running. You never know what could happen. I could get a cough or what have you. And have to have somebody that can take that spot if I step out. Same within our police department, having an assistant chief and full-time chief.
Right. Ryan Sadler is now a full-time police officer.
Yes, we brought him on. That goes back that we had to fill that spot. We were short an officer, and Chief Alf Hancock interviewed people. We had interview boards, and Ryan kind of worked his way to the top of those interviewees, and we hired him full-time.
Well, congratulations. Moving on to March, the Wellston Public Water Authority. I'm not sure if I said that right.
Wellston Public Works Authority.
There you go. Looking into a refinance because rates are historically low right now.
Rates are historically low. With any business or organization, sometimes you have to take loans out to finance capital improvements. So about 20 years ago or so, when they built the water plant, they took out, I believe, $500,000 or more in loans from the United States Department of Agriculture. No, it was actually over $1 million. So, and those are down to both loans are about $400,000. And they're currently financed. One loan's at 5%, and one's at 4.5%, which I think we possibly could get better rates. So I asked the board if they would like me to explore refinance options. So we'll be reaching out to several lenders, and there's some that specialize in public finance. So to see what kind of rates we can get, and if we can shave off 2 or 3% on that, that saves the town a lot of money.
Okay, moving on to the town trustee meeting. Annexation. This is a big deal.
This is a big deal.
So speak on it.
Very big deal. So Wellston, in the 120 plus years of its history, has really geographically not grown much more than we're like 1.7 square miles. We've picked up a little piece here, a little piece there. When the turnpike came through, we picked up all the way to the turnpike gate. But in order for us to really grow, for us to thrive, we need to increase our municipal boundaries a little bit. We need to protect from encroachment from other cities. And the Wellston Planning Commission and the town board has targeted or are looking to expand west to meet at the county line. So to expand the Wellston municipal boundaries 6 square miles to the west. So what we'll do is we'll be surveying the residents. There's about 330 properties within this area of annexation or proposed annexation that we will be talking to the property owners and saying, here are the benefits of being in municipal boundaries. Here are some of the pros versus the cons. On the pro side of it, most of these, all of them will actually, the initial zoning will be agricultural. So they will not, they'll be exempt from, you can still shoot your gun, you can still, won't have to worry about your dogs running loose, so on and so forth. You'll be kind of exempt from the strict restrictions because they're going to be rural areas. But you'll immediately get police patrol in the area, which is a big deal.
That is a big deal.
It's a big deal. And then also, if you have a fire, you will not be billed for fire response. So a house fire will usually cost $3,000 to $5,000.
Oh my.
If you have a grass fire that gets out of control, that can be $500 and up. So, if you're immediately covered under municipal fire protection at that point. Moving on from there, we'll have a 120-month or 10-year plan to provide a water main from Wellston to the county line. And then that'll grow off from there. So your insurance rates will be reduced because we'll have fire hydrants in the area. And then, so, there are some benefits. Downside to it, you would be taxed on internet purchases at the Wellston tax rate. And then, that's right offhand, that's the only thing I can really think of, what it would cost you. But it is, it will also give you a vote and town meetings. So it gives you actual citizen buy-in of what direction our communities grow. With the change that's coming to this area, with the potential for population growth, you'll want input into how the future of the community is set up. And in order to do that, you have to be within the municipal boundaries. So there's some real pros to it. But what we'll be doing over the next probably 3 to 6 months is reaching out to those property owners, talking to them about it. And if we can gain 65% consent of the property owners of the acre zone, then we'll present it to the board for resolution, hold a public meeting, and it'll go, or present to the board as an ordinance to annex it, and hold a public meeting, and it will come in within municipal boundaries.
It's kind of exciting to think about it.
Well, Wellston, with all things, there just comes a time for growth.
Yeah.
And I think, and so does the town board, and so does the Wellston Planning Commission, and a lot of the residents in that area that we talked about, that, it's time for Wellston to grow.
The town of Wellston Town Hall area is getting a server.
Yes. One thing that, it just all comes with kind of modernizing this. We run a pretty busy business here, and with that, you need appropriate computer hardware. We've been operating on PCs. Every person has their own PC at their station. That presents some information security risks. Also, you have to pay for virus protection at each station. So we've reached out to an IT company, and they're going to come out, put a server in, hooks all up to a server. Hopefully, it'll make our day-to-day operations a little smoother.
More secure.
Yeah, more secure.
We're having a contract with Countryside Veterinary, I'm supposing, for taking in the animals for that short amount of time. Yeah,
this is a renewal. We've contracted with Countryside since I've been here, and we used them this last year. We used them a lot. We really were proactively working animal control. We currently have kind of stepped back some of that. We don't have an animal control officer at this moment, but we do have a young lady who works here, and she's kind of interested in maybe filling that spot, so we're going to put her possibly into that spot. But right now, if you have a vicious animal, or if there's an animal run loose and we have a police officer that can, we can pick it up and take it over to a countryside. One of the things that we are going to be exploring in the coming months is actually housing some of those animals here, building a kennel. It would save quite a bit of money. Plus, it also help us reunite the animal property or the
give them a
animal
chance
owner.
to find the animal before it goes makes a trip to
Yes,
shelter.
absolutely.
Also, since we started at the cemetery committee not long ago, they've been doing a little bit of action. It looks like they've got some software for cemeteries called G-Works.
Yeah. So the cemetery board meets every other month, and they made recommendations to the town board that we purchase cemetery management software. This is software that ties in with our current accounting and billing software. It will basically modernize our cemetery records. We have 120 plus year old books that we manage it with right now. By having the software, it'll allow us to input all that information, basically convert that from those books to digital form.
And there's also going to be, there's a part-time cemetery sexton position that has been created.
Yes. The options for cemetery maintenance were contracted versus hiring a part-time sexton. And caretaker, the cemetery board made the recommendation to hire a part-time employee to do it. So the town board created that position, and I will search and hire a candidate for that.
Lastly, the last thing we want to bring up as far as meetings go is Dennis Morris is now the full-time volunteer fire chief.
Yeah, I want to say congratulations, Dennis. He's been doing a great job. Really, really just kind of took that organization and ran with it, so to speak. Got a lot of new volunteers down there. Has just been really active in keeping them guys engaged, and they're out there cooking and washing fire trucks, and they're just really working well together. So congratulations to Dennis, and he is the official full-time fire chief, or not, well, official full-time volunteer fire chief. Right. Maybe one of these days we'll have paid fire chief.
Right. Okay, so now that we're all done with that, we were going to discuss a little bit about COVID, the coronavirus, and how it's going to affect Wellston going forward.
Yes, it's a unique situation to be in right now in public service, and I can't say most of us 2 months ago would have never thought that we would be discussing quarantines and preparation of disaster or state of emergency declarations. Wednesday, we've been kind of following it, but last Wednesday when it kind of struck real close to home, that triggered a mechanism for us where we started protocol and started action. Mayor Paul Whitney and myself discussed what steps we would take as a community response, and then we started our emergency management meetings and so on and so forth. Our first steps were we canceled rentals on the senior center to reduce exposure there. So we started with that. As things have progressed and we have reached 10 cases here in the state of Oklahoma, and at direction of our state and local partners through emergency management, we have instituted the incident command system. So we have an operational period of 1 week that goes Monday to Monday. We meet every Monday morning, myself, the mayor, the vice mayor, emergency manager, police chief, fire chief, and the public works director, and we discuss what actions we'll take on the following week. This morning we met and we have taken the steps of canceling or restricting any non-participant visitors to the senior nutrition site. So that means don't bring the kids, the grandkids, so on and so forth to the senior center. We're going to be suspending water cutoffs, so we won't shut the water off. You will still incur late fees and stuff if you can, but for whatever reason, we won't shut that water off. If you can't make that, to pay it. We have canceled April's court and, March's court date, and we've sent letters out and called those people, and we postponed that till April. We also will be restricting visitor access to town hall, and basically that's kind of the steps that we've taken right now. We're monitoring this day to day, and as it changes day to day, we'll make necessary change to that. We will be having an emergency meeting Wednesday morning at 8:30 or 8 o'clock to declare a state of emergency for the town. What that means is not anything crazy. It doesn't mean that we got to go out and buy all the toilet paper.
Right.
It means we still go to the store. All that is it is a procedure that puts into place the necessary steps in case there is federal funding
Right.
to come and aid for communities. This is a very unique situation. We're all kind of going through it day by day. But at this point, wash your hands, take the necessary precautions that you can, and we'll just go from there.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. That's it. Go to the grocery store, get what you need. Make sure there's a little bit left for everybody
Right.
else. But it is something that we have to talk about. We have to plan for, and rest assured that the government, the town employees, your elected officials here, our number one goal is the health and safety of the people of the town of Wellston, and we'll do whatever we need to make sure that we keep it that way. And we have to look out especially for our vulnerable community members.
Well, we're going to sign out with her having another call, so thank you for visiting with us.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Are you still recording?
Yeah.
One thing I want to remind everybody, really important, April 7th is a special the renewal. It's a renewal, not a new tax.
Increase.
Not an increase, renewal of your Hashtag special sales tax. That goes to fund the senior center, the cemetery, parks, recreation, and tourism promotion, and your fire department. That is very important that passes.
Exactly.
And we'll put more information out on the town page about it, but it is a renewal, not a new tax.
All right, thank you.
All right.